Hey YouTube, today might be a little bit longer of a video. We're going to do some buffing today. Y'all heard me talk about not enjoying buffing. I don't enjoy it. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I do it to keep from having to pay somebody else to do it. But what I'm going to walk you through today is how to get your buffer ready. Some of the steps you need to take before you buff, and I'm going to show you a few spots that I want to try to buff out, and why I want to buff them out. Stay tuned, and I'll get right back at you. So right here, hopefully you can see, I don't know if you can, there's a spot right here. I had hauled the trailer down to the truck down to a car show back in January, and I used what I thought was a really soft car cover. Hopefully you can see that, all this in here. And anyway, I had put a car cover over it, tied it down to a trailer, and took off the car show. And when I pulled the car cover off, apparently the wind had caused the car cover to sort of chafe the paint, especially on black paint. Man, you can't get away with anything. So I'm going to try to buff that out. And also, if you'll look here in the reflection where you can see this line up here from the roof up above us, you can see how it's not a real chiseled line, if you know what I mean. It's muffled, sort of foggy a little bit. Like I'll show you something here. Like here, you can see definite lines. A real nice exact reflection, and of course that's what I'm after. So we're gonna try to get that buffed out. What it is, I just put a real quick buffing on it, just to get a little shine out of it, to drive it. And now that I've got a little bit of free time, I'm gonna see if we can get that up to a real high gloss, real deep shine. That's the effect that we're after. So I'll get you set up, and we'll get at it. I'll show you how I do it. There's multiple ways to buff, you know. There is a right way and a wrong way, but there's a big gray area there, you know, where you can really get some good good outcomes. I'll walk you through some of the products that I use, and it seems to work out good for me. And I typically find something that works good, and I pretty much just stay with it. I know what to expect from it, you know. So I use most all the time. I'll use the 3M Perfected. It's user friendly. It's a little bit expensive. Probably somewhere around $30, you know, per quart. You can see it comes in a 1, 2, and a 3. And correlating buffing pads. You know, a lot of people use wool. I don't. I'm not a buffer, so I'm a little bit, you know, leery of wool. It tends to actually do a better job if you really know what you're doing, which I don't. And I don't profess to be any type of professional. But you know, they come with their own pad that'll go, you know, from a more coarse to a medium, and then to a fine with your third and final polish. And you know, depending on what shape your paint is in, you don't necessarily have to use all 3 steps. You know, you know, if your paint doesn't call for it, you know, you might not have to use the first step, you know, in a heavy rubbing compound. You might be able to skip that one, go straight to 2 and 3. This being a brand new paint job, fresh off a wet sand, I'm going to have to bring all that depth and that shine back. So I'll be going through step 1, 2, and 3. And so we'll get started. Let me find a place to set you down, and we'll get after it. The first thing typically you want to do is prep your pad. If you look and see, there's old compound. You can flake it off. You don't. It's really abrasive when it dries, so you don't want, you know, that stuff swirling around on your paint. You know, like I said, black paint. You know, because it'll show up really bad. So basically, all we're gonna do, and it might get a little bit dusty, all we're going to do is we're going to spin this thing up, and we're going to use a paint paddle and lay it up against that foam pad and throw some of this junk off of it. We should be in good shape. But do this every time, you know, before you buff. If your pads have been setting for any time whatsoever, you got to clean those pads off. Pretty much that simple. Now you don't want to get your paint paddle real close to the center because you don't want the other side of this pad grabbing a hold of the end of this, because it will sling this paddle right back at you. So you want to, you know, lay it sort of diagonal to the direction of travel and sort of stay away from that center section right there, because it will bite you. The way that you're holding your paddle, it doesn't have anywhere to go but back into your wrist. So you want to stay away from that center. Don't let that foam grab a hold of it back here on the back side. So stay perpendicular to the direction of travel, and you'll be in good shape. You'll knock all that crap off, and you'll come off, or you'll get done, and you'll have all your pieces and parts and limbs and digits left. All right, so we got that part done. Let me see if I can find a place to set you where you can see what in the world's going on, and man, we'll get to doing some buffing. If you'll notice, I've got this plastic up around everything. If you've ever done any buffing, you know that this stuff is really, really, really messy. Slings it everywhere. Also notice I've got a sort of a smock type work shirt on. This stuff doesn't come out of your clothes really, really easy. So I try not to make as much a mess as possible. So basically what we're going to do, now I've already cleaned this paint. Don't be buffing on dirty paint, because you'll introduce contaminants, and you'll cause little swirl marks and stuff, and then you know you've added a little bit of work to what you're doing, because then you got to get rid of your swirl marks. Make sure you shake your compound really good. Sediments tend to sit at the bottom, and that's where your abrasive is for your polishing compound, or for your buffing compound. Sorry about the noise, the truck just went by. There's a way to go about doing this and not slinging it so bad all over the place. What you want to do is when you sweep up new compound, sort of lean your buffer over to the left a little bit and sort of encapsulate it, and that will help keep from slinging it all over the place. You're going to make a mess, but the more you do this, the more you'll learn how to reach out and bite that stuff and bring it in, and maybe not make too much of a mess for yourself. All right, let's get this thing started. I'm on about 3.5. When you lift that up, that's what you need to do. I'm going to turn it up to about 4. And you'll notice your compound will start drying a little bit. That's when you know you're getting close. You'll really start feeling that shine pop up. And with the foam pad, you don't really have to worry too much about heat. You're not gonna get too much heat going on. Light pressure. Let the machine do the work. You just guide it along. All you want to do is guide it along. Don't add a whole lot of pressure to it. You won't be doing yourself a favor. Don't add a lot of pressure. Just let the machine weight do it, sort of just guide it. So you encapsulate that, not sling it all over the place. That's how you want to do it. Go up to about 4.5. It takes a little bit of practice. But with a little bit of practice, you'll get good at it. You have to realize this is one of those things that people do as a career. It takes a long time to learn to do this stuff and get proficient with it. It don't just happen and you're going to mess up. Another reason why I use foam pads is because when you mess up, it doesn't really show up that bad. Because it doesn't create all that heat. We're getting there. Now, also you'll notice when you start buffing that the machine, you also start notice that the machine will start getting dragged to it. You know, you'll be able to feel the effects of that compound starting to dry. You don't want to go too far past that when you really start dragging. Because you're not doing a whole lot of good there because most of your compound by then is gone. So like I said, you know, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And we've already got a really, really good shine. Don't stop there. Believe it or not, it gets better. So when you're buffing, you don't want to be mixing your compounds. So you don't want to contaminate one of your buffing rags, you know, with each of the compounds. So what I'm saying is, after you get through buffing with your first compound, you'll use that rag that goes with that to take the dust and all that stuff. And then when you go to your next step, you're going to want to use another rag. Don't introduce, you know what I mean, that compound from that first rag into your second compound, because your second compound is much, much finer. And so you don't want to introduce that big grit from your first compound into that small, finer grit of your second and also your third. And we'll get right back at it. All right, guys, ready for step 2. We got our blue pad on. Now, there are systems out there where the pad color corresponds with the compound you're using. 3M does have that system. I have my own foam pad, so the color doesn't necessarily correspond. You want to go with, you know, how the sponge feels, you know what I mean, how the coarser your pad, you know, goes with the coarser of your materials that you're using, and so on and so forth. So with that said, let's get back at it. little bit slower with this compound because it's nowhere near as aggressive as our rubbing compound. So it's not having the effect on the paint, obviously, that the rubbing compound is because it's not as aggressive. So we can be a little bit more aggressive with this compound without fear of doing damage to the paint. Being careful to try not to grab my plastic up there. That'd make for a bad day, wouldn't it? The same thing goes for this compound as the first. When you start feeling friction, you know, drag, that's when you want to stop and look at what you got. Because at that point you're really not doing a whole lot of good because most of your compound is gum. So you don't want to just keep on, you know, going trying to force the compound to go past its life because you're really not doing anything after that. And you may end up having to add more compound. You don't want to add so much that it starts gumming up, but you want to add enough, you know, to get the job done. We are getting there. I believe I'm going to go back over it again. But that's coming out pretty good. So let's grab our compound and do that one more again. See what we got. And this is thinner, so it's going to swing it a little bit more than the first set that we used. So go ahead and be prepared for that. But you are going to make a mess. There is no way around it. Take your time. If you'll notice, I've I've got the nose of the machine down when I get around an edge. That shows that the direction the machine is turning is going off of the edge, not onto the edge. You always want to do that. Make sure you're going off the edge in accordance with the direction of your machine. If you don't, or what I mean by that, you can see the direction the machine is turning. When I get down here on the edge, the machine is turning this way. So I want this going away edge to go off of my body line here. I don't want it to be going this way because it will want to grab it. And when it grabs it, you have a real chance of doing real damage, even with the foam pad, of burning your paint. So make sure that rotating edge is going off of your body line. That'll save you a lot of heartache. All right, fellas. This is our third and final. Hopefully, we'll look at it when we get done, see if we need to do more. This is step 3. Softest foam pad for your finest material. It's a really easy way to think about it. All right, let's get at it. Hopefully I didn't just sling all that at my camera. You'll notice I'm moving really slow at a high RPM. This stuff takes a little while longer to work, stays wet a little bit longer, which I really like because it allows me to spend the time and detail each section really nice without having to worry about my material drying out. It also allows you to build a little bit of heat. A little bit of heat is good. Obviously not too much heat. Notice how I tried to encapsulate that as well as I could to keep from swinging it so bad. Don't really know how good of a job I did. But I really got the RPMs up. Very, very little pressure. And a slower movement. That's what this compound allows you to do. You got a little bit longer of a work time. Alright guys, hopefully you can see we have a much better shine. If you follow that line that we showed you earlier, much more defined than what it was. Really happy. Got a really nice clear reflection, and that's what we're after. Now I'm going to go ahead and take you off camera and go ahead and get this front fender done, and then I'll bring you back and show you what we came up with. Alright guys, it looks like that we got rid of every bit of that. Really nice deep shine. And it took me about 4 or 5 minutes to do it. Turned out looking really good. So that's how I do it. It's probably not perfect, but like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what I did wrong and how you would go about fixing it. Till next time, YouTube, we'll see you later.